Mr. Shams, in recent days, the United Nations Human Rights Council has renewed both the mandate of the independent international fact-finding mission on Iran and the special rapporteur on the situation of human rights in the Islamic Republic. How important is this decision?
Well, it's absolutely crucial for both the human rights community of Iran and the Iranian people that these two mandates have been renewed. First of all, because the mission of the special rapporteur on the situation of human rights in Iran has been always, at least in the last 4 decades, the main mechanisms through which the civil society and human rights community could bring attention of the international community to the situation of human rights in Iran. A variety of the human rights violations with regards to fundamental rights in Iran has been documented by the human rights organizations and been relayed to the special rapporteur, which reflected in his or her report on a yearly basis. This is absolutely crucial because not only it has at some point some sort of a political impact on Iranian decision makers in order to prevent worsening of the human rights situation in Iran. It also is a very important mechanism for preserving and documenting human rights violations that could be used on further accountability measures. And the fact-finding mission is also very important for understanding cycles of suppression that has been going on at least in the last 3 decades of suppressing protesters, persecuting ethnic, gender, or religious minorities in Iran, and a variety of gross human rights violations, which at some point could amount to to crimes against humanity. So the fact-finding mission is an independent mechanism, which is reliable for the international community because it's independent, that can investigate and document human rights violations. And in this order, it's very important because it wouldn't be accused of having bias against the Iranian government because this is some sort of accusation that's been made against the Iranian human rights organizations over and over by from the Iranian government, that these organizations are politically affiliated with political factions or are somehow being involved in different type of hostility against the Iranian government. But an independent mechanism appointed by the United Nations and trusted by the international community is something different. So any findings of these two missions are crucial for any type of accountability measures.
The fact-finding mission, in his last report to the United Nations Human Rights Council, has accused the Islamic Republic of Iran of crimes against humanity. What it means?
Well, crimes against humanity is one of the most serious international crimes under the Rome Statute that establishes the International Criminal Court. Article 7 of the Rome Statute defines crimes against humanity as a plot against uh, civilians a plot to attack civilians, which include a variety of crimes listed under Article 7, including killing, torturing, forced disappearance, forced displacement, and persecuting a group of civilians based on their ethnic or religious or gender identity. And it is also one of the major elements of crimes against humanity that it should be systematic and widespread. So So to sum it up, it will be a systematic and widespread attack against civilians plotted uh, by the high rank government officials with a knowledge of these high rank officials. So these four elements are crucial for establishing the occurrence of crimes against humanity. There should be a plot for attack against civilians. This attack uh, should include one of these crimes I just mentioned, including killing, torturing, forced disappearance, and the attack must be systematic and widespread in nature. This is a very serious crime, and it can be prosecuted either through the International Criminal Court or through the principle of universal jurisdiction by a variety of countries that accepted and adopted the principle of universal jurisdiction into their domestic legal system.
The fact-finding mission report includes also a list of persons that committed these kinds of crimes in Islamic Republic of Iran. These names have not been published but are available to governments upon request. Who can and should judge these people? The International Criminal Court or any other body. We know that Iran is not a member of the Rome Statute and didn't recognize the International Criminal Court. So to judge Iranians, they must be referred from the United Nations Security Council. But we know that China and Russia that have right to veto, they will not refer Iran's and Iranians to this court. So what will happen? What can happen?
So there are a number of ways that the International Criminal Court can address and deal with a case of crimes against humanity. The first is the country in which the crimes against humanity happen, or the country in which the crimes against or a country that its citizens committed crimes against humanity is part of the is one of the members of the Rome Statute and recognizes the International Criminal Court. Another way would be for, as you mentioned, for the UN Security Council to refer the case under Chapter 7 of UN Charter to the International Criminal Court, which in case of Iran is very unlikely, almost impossible, because of the role of Russia and China that can veto it. Another way for that is, as I said, to use the principle of a universal jurisdiction in order to prosecute perpetrators involved in crimes against humanity. That is the most likely way to do that. And it's not even easy, as the universal jurisdiction is a very young procedure within the legal system of countries that are now accepting this principle. And at the same time, uh, in most cases, uh, the principle of universal jurisdiction can be engaged when a perpetrator is actually within the jurisdiction of the country that is willing to prosecute. So if the perpetrator is not there, it is almost unlikely that the court will prosecute. I'll give you an example of how this can happen in different jurisdictions because it varies in different legal systems. For example, in Germany, there is a mechanism called structural investigation. Structural investigation allows the public prosecutor of German government to uh, prosecute uh, or to actually investigate crimes that its perpetrators are not completely identified, and it will be some sort of a preliminary investigation into the situation uh, for crimes against humanity under the Code of International Crimes. Right now, Germany has this special unit and its mechanisms of structural investigation that can be initiated upon the decision of the General Public Prosecutor of the German government to investigate, gather evidence, and preserve those evidence for further prosecution when the prosecution would be relevant. And the prosecution would be relevant if those persons involved in the crimes travel to Germany, for example. Why is important? Because in many cases, when these perpetrators actually travel to these countries, if there is not enough evidence uh, processed and preserved, the lengthy process of taking legal actions against them will allow them to leave those countries which are willing to prosecute, and is a very serious issue. So, one of the things that can be done right now is to engage these type of mechanisms, which, as I said, varies in different countries, to initiate investigations, preserve evidence against these perpetrators, and kind of prepare this evidence in case that these perpetrators travel to those countries.
Like Hamid Nouri's case in Sweden.
Exactly, for a case like a case of Hamid Nouri, it is important to have these investigations already processed and initiated, because that will kind of accelerate the whole process in case that these individuals travel to those countries. Uh, and more importantly, for example, the structural investigation allows the government to investigate the whole situation regarding that crime. And this will allow that government to have some sort of a massive amount of evidence preserved within the legal processes, which are very complicated. We might think that, okay, there are so much evidence against these people, but the type of evidence that a human rights organization gathers, documents, and preserve is at some point, in many cases, very different with the process that a legal system would take to document and process evidence and preserve them for using at court. So there are so many elements that need to be observed when you are documenting evidence for the court. This process would be lengthy and would be very complicated. So it's important that these processes are initiated as soon as possible for many reasons. First, because lots of evidence might be destroyed, and so many witnesses might uh, pass or just the type of evidence that is at hand might be destroyed, and it is important to gather the evidence as soon as possible. Another reason for that is that these processes are very lengthy, so it's important that they are initiated and these evidence are already there, prepared to be presented to the court as soon as these people are traveling. Because when they are, you remember, for example, Shahrudi, the former head of the judiciary in Iran, traveled to Germany for medical reasons. And so, as soon as the Iranian German community realized that he's in the country, it took less than 24 hours for him to leave the country. So it is very important that you already have solid documents that can be presented to the court, ready to engage. That will allow the court to, for example, issue a kind of a arrest order or temporary arrest order for these individuals so that the process can begin.
As I understand, Mr. Shams, it is important to start gathering documents and testimonies about these people who are accused uh, to crimes against humanity. So if they travel to third countries, they can be arrested and judged in these countries. It's true?
I believe Yes, that's true. I believe that one of the things that can be done right now is that, for example, there are lots of these um, victims of the recent suppression now living in European countries. Some of them lost an eye or a limb, or the family of the protesters killed are now uh, living in the Western countries. They can start organizing in order to gather evidence and look into possibility of different legal processes that they can initiate. Because as I said, these legal processes are very different in different countries. In one country, you might be able to, for example, uh, file a complaint and the person would be arrested in a matter of hours to be to be present at the court. But in some other legal system, it might take days or months, and the legal system wouldn't allow the arrest just based on accusations without solid evidence. So this is an issue that needs to be understood. So the most important thing is for both the human rights organization, because the human rights organization are doing their job and they are doing their job brilliantly. That's why they were very successful in the type of information and reports and documenting evidence that was delivered to the fact-finding mission. The report of the fact-finding mission is mainly based on the information and evidence provided by the Iranian human rights organizations and groups and individuals to them. So these reports were gathered by the FFMI, been studied, reviewed, and then used in their final report. So they are doing their job, they are documenting everything. But at the same time, those victims and then those who were affected by these crimes should, first of all, should trust the human rights organizations, work with them in a constructive way, and at the same time, they should organize into entities or groups that can start a dialogue with legal experts in countries where they are based so they can actually start working on these legal processes. And they should seek help and advice from both the Iranian human rights organizations based abroad and from the uh, human rights organization and legal firms in the countries where they are based. So they will give them advice on how to deal with this issue in accordance with the legal system of their countries.
Thank you very much to be with us.
Thank you so much for having me.